Okay, good morning. Is everyone ready to proceed today? It is 12 noon. This is a continuation of our hearing that was set and postponed at the request of the respondent. Yesterday afternoon I received email correspondence from the respondent that he had terminated his lawyer and that he was requesting another postponement, and I responded that he should be prepared to proceed today with the proceedings and any arguments that he might have in regard to his counsel. So with that said, we're going to start the hearing today. Mr. O'Hare, I believe it was your turn to present your case.
Thank you, Mr. Brandenburg. The last hearing, there was new evidence introduced, not part of the citations of the notice, specifically public record request, the amount of them, and lawsuits that have been filed, things that have nothing to do at all with this action. And having reviewed that last night all the way to the end of the video, I realized that this is a lot more than just a code enforcement hearing, and I am not prepared to move forward until I'm able to obtain sufficiently qualified counsel with litigation experience who can actually present my case and represent me for the grand scope of what's really going on here. So I'm not ready to move forward, sir, until I can. And I respectfully request I have some time to find that counsel, to ask them if they're interested in my case, to fit in with their schedule, to negotiate a representation agreement, to bring them up to speed on the volumes and volumes and volumes of information that Mr. Randolph introduced into evidence at the last hearing. And I can't say how long that might take. I want this resolved as quickly as possible. I will point out that I applied for a roof permit yesterday. As per the testimony, that was the resolution of the first violation. I have not heard back yet as whether that's been approved, but I beg the magistrate's permission to have a little bit more time to get someone here that can adequately represent me and have a fair hearing. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. O'Hare, I'd like to say with respect to that, I'm only here to determine the code enforcement matter. I do not have any constitutional or statutory powers to do anything other than just code enforcement. Any items that are presented to me that do not pertain directly to the code enforcement matter before us today will not be given any weight by me in determining the code enforcement matter.
Well, I appreciate that.
Okay, secondly, I'd like to say that there is no constitutional or statutory right for a person that has been charged with a code enforcement matter to have counsel present. And in the vast majority of code enforcement cases that come before municipalities and counties throughout the state of Florida, the respondents represent themselves without counsel. You have chosen to have counsel, and that is your right and privilege to do that. And we have, at yours and your counsel, previous counsel's request, postponed this matter and delayed this matter on a couple of occasions at least, to afford you opportunities to better present your case. This matter has now drug out for quite a while. And I am not of the inclination to drag this matter on further. I would like to see this resolved today. I understand that in proceeding in this fashion, you will be representing yourself. And I'll give you certain leeway, because you're not a lawyer, to go forward and present your case as best you can. And I will assure you that I will give all the matters that you present good consideration when it comes to deciding this issue.
Sir, I appreciate that, I really do. I believe you're an impartial adjudicator, and I just do not feel, given the weight of what's really happening here, that this isn't, I mean, if it was a normal code enforcement hearing, if this was the city of Delray Beach or Point Beach, I can fully understand and appreciate that per se representation is more than adequate, but what I'm looking at is a code enforcement that was initiated immediately after a federal judge said, threw out a RICO charge against me, and I'm pretty sure that the only reason we're here today is because the mayor told the town manager, get that guy. Given that and that broad scope, and also my experience here with Magistrate Donlin and Torcivio, magistrates that have since decided they wanted nothing to do with the town, I think there's more going on here, and I think that I'm not adequately able to represent myself in that, and I really wish I could just get someone who's a professional litigator who can undo some of the things that Mr. Randolph did at the last hearing. There's so many I thought this was going to be a simple matter. I would come in here, I'd show you the inspection history, the letters from engineers, all the things that somehow the witnesses chose not to tell you. But I'm not capable of undoing and unringing those bells, and I need someone professional to help me.
Well, I can assure you, sir, that any testimony that you present to me and matters you present to me will be given their fair weight. And I am not either authorized by law or inclined to consider any issues regarding those other matters that you have brought forward. It is purely a code enforcement matter that's being brought before me today. You know, the issues are, what section of the code? Is the code violated or is it not? It's a pretty simple matter. I've done this in a lot of jurisdictions throughout Palm Beach County and other counties, and I am very familiar with limiting the scope of my inquiry to what is within my authority and what is not. Mr. Randolph?
Yes, Mr. Magistrate, I just wanted to say that that's all the town is here for on this hearing, is to enforce the provisions of its code. There were 3 provisions cited. We are here to present evidence in regard to those violations, and we are prepared to go forward today. We do object to any extension based upon the request to get another attorney. And I would like to present for the record a list of 27 cases that Mr. Rader is representing Mr. O'Hare on, along with recent filings by Mr. O'Hare where he has asked Mr. Rader to serve as counsel for him. I think it's important that this be on the record, at least in regard to the request for a postponement. We think that this postponement request is without merit, and if I may, I would like to present these.
Mr. O'Hare, Mr. Randolph suggests that the attorney that you let go yesterday is representing you on a wide range of matters. Do you care to indicate to me whether or not that attorney is still representing you on these other matters? You don't have to answer that if you don't want to.
Well, of course, I don't want to speak to anything that might be client-attorney privileged. I will say that I've been completely preoccupied for weeks with this hearing in preparation for it, at the expense of a whole lot of things, including my personal relationships. And all of those cases I am currently evaluating as to my representation, and it just, there's so many, I have not had the time to complete that, but I can't tell you what the final outcome will be on all those. I just know in this particular case, we have a big difference in strategy. Mr. Rader's a gentleman, he treats people gently, and we have a real difference of opinion, and that's why I'm seeking other counsel. And I don't mean to insinuate that I won't treat people in a gentlemanly manner, but there might be other options that are more appropriate here.
All right, Mr. O'Hara, your request for a postponement for today is denied. We're going to go ahead and proceed to the conclusion of this matter. I will give you leeway and give you adequate opportunity to present your evidence and anything that you would like me to hear today. And we'll see if we can wrap this up today. So with that said, I would ask for your cooperation in moving forward and concluding this matter.
May I ask for a minute to get a drink of water, please?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Sure. Mr. O'Hara, I'm sure the city staff will provide you with a bottle of water, sir. Would you provide Mr. O'Hara with a bottle of water?
Thank you, sir.
During this break, if I may, I've asked for the prior proceedings to be transcribed, and I have copies of the transcript for the magistrate to the extent that this may be helpful to you in ultimately resolving the matter. May I present them to you?
Thank you.
You may. Have copies been provided to the respondent?
It was his court reporter, so I presume they got copies from the court reporter.
Mr. O'Hara, do you have copies of the proceedings?
I'm sorry.
Do you have copies of the proceedings that we had previous to today's date? Court reporters.
No, I only have the video, which I looked at last night.
Okay, I'm going to ask the city to go ahead and have copies made of these.
I've got copies.
You do have copies?
I think I've got the original, and I think let me see if those are copies. Make sure you get one. I'll get him a copy. I see that I have one original here, and I want to make sure that I don't give that away because the town needs one as well, but I will get him a copy before the end of the proceedings today. Or if he wishes to have it before then, I'll take a break and find the copies in my file.
Sir, do you need them for your presentation, or is it okay if the city provides you copies of these prior verbatim hearings at a later date?
I'm not prepared to, not prepared to go forward with any proceedings, and I have no opinion on when they should provide them to me.
Okay, sir. Are you prepared to present your case today?
Excuse me.
I have found a copy, and I'll provide him with a copy now. I'll put it on this chair, if you like. You see, Mr. O'Hara, where I put it?
Yeah, thank you. I'm sorry, Your Honor, I'm having a real problem. Can you give me a minute?
Sure, have a seat.
Thank you.
expedite matters, I do have some other evidence to present, which I was going to do on my case, but if Mr. O'Hare would like the benefit of that additional evidence to address in his case, I can present it now.
Sir, I know it's no interest to the court, but this is the tip of a giant iceberg that's resulted in my wife divorcing, my family broken up, and if I knew 4 years ago what was going to happen, things would be a lot different, but like a snowball going down a hill, this has gotten so out of control. I do not feel that I can make my case today. Physically, I feel really strange.
Mr. O'Hare, yesterday when you emailed me regarding the status of your lawyer, I told you to come to the court today and be prepared to proceed forward.
Yes, that's correct.
And again, I'm only dealing with the issue of whether or not the violations alleged against you under the city code have in fact occurred, and if they have occurred, what is the appropriate remedy and time frame to put those in place. Those are the only issues I'm dealing with. I'm not dealing with any of these other sub-issues that you may have surrounding yourself and your family.
The law, as I understand it, gives you tremendous leeway in the admission of evidence and the conducting of this hearing. I understand writ of cert appeal is limited to whether I was properly noticed and if I had a chance to speak, but not on really anything that went down. And I feel without someone at least as equal to Mr. Randolph's stature, that I won't be able to present a sufficient case. And I'm asking you again if I could just have a moment to find another representation. I promise I will not do anything except that search until I have someone who can come in here and at least equally present a case as effectively as Mr. Randolph has.
Well, sir, you had an awful long time between our last hearing and now to determine whether or not your lawyer satisfactorily was presenting your case as desired. You waited until yesterday afternoon at about 3:45 to notify me, might have been 2:45, that you made the choice to change lawyers. And I told you that you needed to be prepared to proceed today. As I've indicated before, most code enforcement cases proceed with the respondents not having lawyers in attendance. Therefore, we're going to go ahead and proceed with this case today. Whether you desire to present evidence or not, that's going to be up to you. And at the end of this hearing, whether it's today or tomorrow, I am going to rule based upon the evidence that has been presented to me.
Excuse me, Ari, he's asking for some help here. I don't know what's going on. He wants me to call 911.
Sir, do you need some assistance by anybody here in the room?
We got police officers outside. Let me check with them and see if they can do it. If you have anybody that can be of assistance to him.
She says he doesn't want any policemen, I guess.
You don't want anybody?
No policemen.
All right. He stated he does not want any assistance at this point.
That's their board. Go ahead, all right?
I need this paramedics.
You're on the way.
Thank you.
Deep breath, okay? this hearing is gonna be in recess until we determine the status of the respondent.
You have a chest pain? I would have to want to buy that for you, patients, that keep yourself breathing, deep breaths help. Got oxygen going in.
You have oxygen here?
Let's go. Deep. Keep breathing, keep deep. You'll be all right. Choice. Breathe deep. Talk easy. You know what day it is? What day is it? Wednesday. Talk a little bit. It helps get your mind focused a little bit here. Deep breaths, and talk. Yeah, just in case, John, go right behind you, John. John.
Yeah.
Right on the wall. What are they? Why I didn't bother to tell you come, it's right there. Have you had a heart problem? Yeah, take medication for it? Yeah, I do that too. I know that too. That helps. She's conscious.
Yeah.
Just in case we have a problem, we got an AED. I don't think you're this Palm Beach County Fire Rescue? This is Lieutenant Allen down in the town of Gulfstream. You have dispatched a unit to our town hall, I believe. Right, we've done it, my patient's having chest pains and possible heart attack. So all right, thank you. Okay. Try to sit up. Try to sit up. You don't want to choke yourself. Your air up. You want to take those deep breaths. You'll be all right. Deep breaths. Control yourself. You can do it. You know you can. How do you feel? What do you feel? You feel going on? You got tightness in your chest? Hurt? How about your arm? Any soreness in your arms?
Numbness, you got numbness in his arms?
Your arm hurts? Just the chest. Do you take any other medications besides aspirin?
I can hear their sirens, so they're on the way.
Better? Yeah? Feel sick to your stomach? No? Unfortunately, I gotta ask some questions. In fact, you can answer. You'll be all right. I'm good myself. You want to go to the hospital? Good attitude. Nobody ever does.
You say you did not want to go to the hospital? What did you say?
He said whatever they say. Here we come. Good hands, all right? Hang in there.
What's going on?
You'll be all right.
What's going on, sir? Okay. You read this kind of attacks before? Okay. Got a cardiac history? Okay, we're gonna stand you and put you on a stretcher, okay? What's your name? All right, Chris, we're gonna get you on a stretcher, partner. Andre. All right, 2, 3.
Does it hurt when you move? Like a gas bubble?
Can you slide over that way just a little bit for me?
Do you have any personal belongings with you today? You guys take some care of that? We'll take our. Go on. Correct.
How are you? I'm well, thanks.
Rita, how are you?
Able to be about and take nourishment.
Huh?
I'm able to get about and take nourishment.
Good thing.
Yep.
Well, okay, now it appears that proceeding today does not appear to be a possibility. We'll wait the results. When Mr. Hare goes to be checked out at the hospital and reschedule as appropriate.
Mr. Brandenburg, prior to this episode, you had indicated to Mr. O'Hare we were prepared to go forward whether he had any evidence to present or not. Obviously, he does not have any evidence to present and never intended to present evidence today. Without seeming empathetic, the town is of the opinion that the request to go forward without an attorney was a ruse. And we also believe that the episode that took place today is a ruse. I understand your finding because I anticipate that what is being planned by Mr. O'Hare, this is my opinion only, that if we do go forward today, he will indicate that he's not received due process on two grounds. One, because he couldn't get his attorney, and two, because he was in ill health and not able to go forward. Having said that, I'm of the opinion that this whole thing is a ruse because this is the fourth time that he has filed for a postponement. And we have been very accommodating in the past in giving those postponements. We're ready to go today and to present additional evidence, no additional testimony, but just some additional evidence to make my argument and to have a ruling made by you.
I understand, Mr. Randolph, and under the circumstances, however, we are going to go ahead and postpone this hearing until Mr. O'Hare can, or a representative of his, be present. I'm going to reset this matter for next week. And Rita, you can tell me what days are available on Mr. Randolph's schedule, and we'll notify Mr. O'Hare that he needs to have himself or a representative present for the remainder of this hearing. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
You want me to call Sandy?
Yeah, would you please?
Yeah.
Call Sandy, we'll set up a time next week. No, there